Good morning. Today's date is December 29th, 2025. We're here to discuss the possible action on Blue Heron Solar Project tax abatement. And if you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, you want to lead us in prayer, please, sir?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have granted us. Father, be with us as we go through this undertaking of the future of Mills County. Guide us and direct us in all our decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. So we have audience individuals and we got several people signed up. I was going to pass along to everybody here that if you're talking about the same subject, y'all can still have someone talk for you because there's numerous people signed up to speak on the same topic. So first I'll call, this is audience individuals. Number two, I'll call Mr. Bill Pintack. Bill, good morning.
Good morning, sir. I'm happy to speak now. I can wait to the end and then answer any questions that may come up from the group.
Okay.
But I thought that might be more efficient.
Okay. Okay. And when you people come up speak, if you come speak to the microphone so we can all hear on YouTube and everything. Okay, Sean Cockrell. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Good, how are y'all? Thanks for having me. I may, be stealing this thunder, but I'm just curious to know what, some of the benefits of the Blue Heron project are to the county. Obviously, there's some form of revenue, possibly lock in the tax values, but maybe some road work, things like that. I'm curious to know that. So I don't really have a presentation, but she said to ask questions. I had to fill out the form.
Sure.
So I'm happy to hear y'all out on what you see the benefits are, or wait for the Blue Heron representative to speak.
Okay, right. Thank you, Mr.
Cockrell.
Yeah, Cockrell.
Yeah, I'm just a local landowner.
Yes, Mr. Cockrell, thank you, sir. Okay. Chris Person. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. My name is Chris Curzon. I'm a resident here at Goldthwaite. I'm kind of ambivalent about the project. I don't think it's going to affect me. I'm just curious from the commissioner's standpoint why they think it's necessary to incentivize the project. You know, decades ago when you started putting in the wind farms, the infrastructure followed that. You gave subsidies to them because they were the first in line. And so once those wind farms went up, then transmissions got built. The Lower Colorado River Authority started to put in electrical distribution systems. All the infrastructure is now in place. So that's why they're coming to you today, is because Mills County has got infrastructure here. There's no reason to incentivize this because the incentives are already here in terms of electrical infrastructure, the grid, everything that they need to tie into. And I know Mr. Pentak is here. I guess when he comes to present, I had a couple of questions for him that I hope you would address, specifically at the 11/24 Commissioners Court hearing. He said there would be 17.4 million to Mills County tax revenue from the project. So I'm curious, what is that 17.4 million? Your attorneys will put together an agreement and you decide to move forward with this. So he's giving you a roadmap of what the benefits are. So to hold them to that and to see if those are put into the agreement. He also mentioned the 3 years of rollback for the agricultural exemption. Specifically said there'd be 162,000 in general revenue and 33,000 in road and bridge fund. So again, to substantiate that, if he's saying that, use the agreement, if you go forward with this, and so the appraisal district knows, here's what, we don't have to figure this out. We don't have to guess what he wants or what they expect. We already know these things. And I would think that can be put into an agreement. And lastly, I saw that you published guidelines for the reinvestment zone. You've already voted to put the reinvestment zone in place. Section 4 of the agreement, subsection B3, says that you can limit the use of the property by the county to ensure compliance. I guess I'd like to hear from your attorneys. From my standpoint, it has been mentioned in previous meetings that there are going to be AI data centers are going to be coupled with power distribution or power generation facilities. They may not be thinking about it today, but there's billions of dollars being poured into that market. So your guidelines allow it. I think it should be stated in whatever agreement, if you decide to go that route, that you enter into, that AI or any kind of data centers cannot be built on the property. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, thank you for your comments. And Chipper Joe Phillips, you want to speak today, or Chipper? And we do give up to 5 minutes, so I did not state that. You have up to 5 minutes, Chipper. Do you keep it at 5 minutes? You got up to 5 minutes to talk.
We couldn't hear what he was saying back there.
Okay,
It didn't work. And I don't know.
okay.
Can I just stand here? with you?
Sure, sure.
I can hear
Sure.
better too. All right, I moved here in 1974 from Mills County, where they had a bunch of these panels, solar panels, and they stopped letting them. They say you can't stop them from building, but you don't have to give them a tax rebate. And if they're gonna build them, they ought to have to pay their share of the taxes, just like we do. Not 40% and 50%. And then they want to cut one down out here, they can cut it down where it's not producing any electricity to pay the correct amount of taxes like we do. And I'm against the solar panels, because they built thousands of them down there in Missouri County where I'm from. And the hailstorm has hit part of them, and they never went back and replaced them. They just don't let them produce. And that's all I have to say. I'm not. Y'all need to call and talk to the commissioners down there or somebody and find out more about them. I mean, we listen to these fellows and they put a good icing on top of everything about what it's gonna be. But we need to think what it's gonna be in the long run. If something happens, they don't have to clean them up and fix them if they go under, go broke. There is nothing in the contract about that. I've seen one of them, because they tried to get our place done. Thank you.
Chipper, thank you, sir. Spring Grossenbacher, good morning, Spring. You want to come up here? Your thoughts, please.
No problem. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. I'm here this morning again to talk against the tax abatements from the community, and I'm here of my own volition, from the people that I know within the community and our Facebook group sites. There's overwhelming disapproval with this project. People are afraid that, one, if we issue the abatements, that every other company, every other AI, every other anything will come in here and we have nothing we can do to stop it. The tax abatements does not make any sense to me personally, because we're incentivizing this on top of that. I want to know, are these companies subsidiaries of any international companies? How many Chinese manufactured parts are we using on these things that our own federal government may at some point in time say no good? Our community has been loud against this. They work, so you're not going to get a whole bunch of people, but if you'd like to discuss, I would be more than happy to do a town hall. Help the commissioners get their list of constituents to reach out. And so you can gauge that, in a metric, disapproval, approval, that type of thing, or even just discuss with them what the benefits are, with you guys, that are voting for this. So anyways, that's my points this morning. I'd be curious to know about, the subsidiaries, the manufactured parts, where are they from, those types of things. But I just think that, we're opening a door that we probably need to be looking at writing. I don't know if it's legislation locally, but ordinances, something that is going to make us less of a target for every other company wanting to do this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Grossenbacher. Mr. Dwayne Rawson. Good morning, Dwayne. You want to come up for your comments?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, God bless them. I can't understand why we're so determined to get these, this plan in here. A couple of months ago, when y'all had a meeting, I could have sworn this tax statement was voted down. The judge didn't want to bring it up. Jason Williams was determined to even give him a 5% tax abatement. And precinct 3 and 4 was for it. 1 and 2 was against it. The judge was against it and it was voted down. And now this tax abatement coming up. I don't understand. It doesn't benefit us in anything. This has been going on and on issue for almost 2 years. We get nothing. Only thing we get out of it is one job, somebody in Mills County. But we're so determined. We got these wind turbines in here. And I just wish y'all would have to live around this noise. You got the swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. And if you don't have that, you got the high pitched noise from these solar panels. I gotta live around. My veteran neighbor that lives behind me, he's got it even worse. We didn't ask for this junk to be put in our backyards, but we suffer for it. Just like if we get these solar panels in here, we don't, y'all don't suffer from it. But the people lives around it, or the water, once we find out just how bad it contaminates our water. And you're so, if they're a plant, why do we need to give them tax abatements? They've got the money for it. Are we willing to give a tax abatement to a resident that wants to open jobs in here? No, we don't. Well, we're bending over backwards to want to help these people coming into our county. They don't even live in our county. There's just one promise of it, one job to a resident. I'm not for this abatement. Y'all weren't for this abatement a few months ago, and now we're bringing it up all over again. So I think we should vote this abatement down. Thank y'all, and they'll have a blessed day.
Mr. Rawson, thanks for your comments. Mr. Rex Williams, you want to come speak, Rex, on anything today? Good morning.
Good morning, y'all. Our family has been property owners in the county since the early 1900s. And I'm very concerned about the encroachment of the so-called green energy projects into our county. It just seems like they're never ending. More and more acres are being taken for electric generation. Mills County is doing more than its share already. Drive around at night, go up on the hill, try to count all the blinking lights. Has anybody ever tried to do that? Big power lines everywhere. We have one on our ranch. My neighbor has 2 big ones on his place. None of them supply energy to our residents. They're all taking it to somewhere else. With solar farms come more high voltage power lines. Just think, once they design a route for the lines, it's almost impossible to stop them. You could get one on you or near your property. All counties around us, including Brown, have rejected a tax break for these companies. Please, Mills County Commissioners, vote no for tax breaks. There are other companies just waiting to see how you vote today before they make their decision to move into our county. Please make the right decision for our kids, grandkids, present and future property owners. This is a special place that we all call home. Thank you.
Rex, thanks for your comments. Hold it. Let's keep it civil. Everybody can be polite. and Mr. Ken Copeland. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning. Well, I have to say, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I don't have a prepared speech this morning. What I do want to ask is, who is Mills County? I mean, when I came here 20 years ago, I left the big city. I was president, CEO of business for quite a while. And when I look at the business plan that this exudes, and it needs subsidies to survive, that's not a successful business plan. I never did that as a CEO of a company. And when I look at what, I'm actually right across the street from the Excelsior project. There's no water on that property. That's why they pulled the cattle off that property. There's no water. Where's the water gonna come from? My property burned about 5 years ago. It took the Florida Fire Department to put it out. Are we prepared? Who's the watchdog? Who's really gonna do it? This is a weird business plan. The business owner gets to decide who they do business with. You guys get to reap the tax benefits, okay? But who's really vetting out these businesses? Who's really gonna be the watchdog? We get stuck with it, okay? You don't. How about we create jobs here? How about we bring in businesses that bring in jobs? There are no jobs gonna be created like this. This is temporary and it's all gonna go to Brown County. Where do you think they're gonna stay and eat? That's where they're gonna stay and eat. And then we're gonna be stuck with eye pollution. I looked up not too long ago, and just like everybody else, there's the blinking red lights. Well, I have figured out a way to turn my chair and look the other way. Because it's eye pollution, okay? I get it. As a CEO, I am for change. I had to change. But if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And at the end of the day, I'm not sure we planned this out properly as to who we're bringing in here to create tax revenue. So I just ask that you take a big step backwards, take a look at this. The tax abatement, why the heck are we gonna go ahead and give a tax abatement to somebody who's already here? They're already clearing the property, they're already spending their money, they're already planning on you giving to them. How do they already know that? Okay, how do they already know they're gonna get a tax abatement? But I'm the guy that's gonna suffer because my landowners next door to me don't give a crap about their property anymore. And they just don't. It's about money, all about money. And with money comes greed and it comes jealousy. And it's not the right decision for Mills County. Let's create jobs. Thank you.
Okay, Ken, thank you. Okay. Mr. Pentek, did you want to speak now or wait till we get going or what?
Has everybody spoken?
Everybody spoke? Anybody else want to speak on this topic? Everybody spoken?
Okay.
Mr. Pentek,
Yeah.
come on. Good morning. Good morning, Bill. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you. Should I move this over so that y'all can hear me as well? Okay. As I told, Commissioner Carter, though, I'm a former Baptist preacher. Don't hold that against me. Okay, so I learned, you already started. I learned to whisper and sawmill and always do my best to project to make sure that people can hear me. I'd like to make a comment and then I'll go through and answer these questions and hopefully you give me a little bit of leeway on the timing since I'm responding to things that other people have said. The first thing I want to say to the court and to the citizens is I want to say thank you. I want to thank you for the interest that you have shown in the project. I appreciate the fact that there are citizens here who are against this. It's part of what makes America great is that we have an opportunity to do this. And while this may be the last time that I address the court, I wanted to make sure that I express to you my gratitude for how kind everyone has been to me in this county. I have been and worked in projects all over the state of Texas. I'm not trying to flatter anyone here, but I can tell you that this has been, the people here are some of the nicest people that I have ever met in our state. And even the opposition has been gracious to me. And I appreciate that very much. I appreciate the fact that we can talk about some of these things. I also wanted to say that Mike Lowe, I talked to him on Friday and he extended his regrets. He's the CEO of Red River Clean Energy. Blue Heron was the original name of the project, so that's the same thing. He had family obligations because of the holidays, because of Christmas, and has actually been traveling outside of the country. But he is expecting a phone call from me after this court session is over. So I wanted to be sure and mention that, and for you to please remember that he did show up at the first meeting. He made an appearance, and he also came to the workshop on the pilot, where we discussed what a pilot was, exactly why we were asking for the pilot, and what we were asking for in the pilot. At the end of the day, what we are trying to do is we are trying to be the largest taxpayer in Mills County. If not the largest, certainly one of the largest taxpayers in Mills County. Taxpayer, by bringing $250 million project that will supply needed electricity, please hear that, needed electricity to your citizens in a place where the project will not be seen and it will not be heard. The tax revenues, I've heard some questions about benefits. You have the numbers in front of you. This project will generate, and this is an old number, this was based on the 50% request that we made. We've since then dropped it down to 35%. Will generate $17.4 million in tax revenues for Mills County. It will generate for the, I don't know who is here from Mullen, but it will generate $19 million for the Mullen ISD. This is the portion that they get to keep. This is the part that's written into the law. And so this will benefit greatly Mullen ISD, a school district that is in need of the funds. Now, one of the things that I've heard here in this court session, and I've heard in other court sessions, a lot about paying your fair share. And I do want to address that. First of all, I want to remind everyone that we are paying 100% of the taxes on the land. So we're not asking for any kind of a discount on the land. And if you'll recall, because of what we're bringing, the ag exemption goes away. So rather than the land generating $9,000 for Mills County, it's going to generate upwards of $150,000 a year. So I'd like you to please bear that in mind. Then on top of that, we have to pay back taxes as if the ag exemption had not existed going back the previous 3 years. And so that's where the rollbacks come in. And so we're looking at $200,000 in addition to the first year's payment for Mills County. And then Mullen ISD, they'll get a check for $238,000 for a school district, again, that needs the funds. So we're looking at, in addition to the regular tax revenue, that's an additional $433,000 that the company will be paying. So what we're doing is we're asking for tax relief on the value that we are bringing into Mills County. We're paying 100% of the land. We're asking for some tax relief based on the project and the equipment and the value that we are bringing to this county. Now, the thing that I guess surprises me.
1 minute. I didn't hear a determination on the time, and that
Yeah.
actually is 5 minutes. So that's up to the commissioners in the court.
Just give me a little bit more.
Yeah, you're right on the.
I will.
Okay, yeah, we've heard all this, the numerous.
Well, I want the citizens to hear
Okay.
it as well.
Okay.
This addresses some of the things that they brought up, which is I've heard people say that, they talk about people have opposed the pilot, and at the same time, they themselves are receiving tax relief through an ag exception. I want to be very clear here that we support that. An ag exemption is a tax abatement. It is in the tax code law of the state of Texas. Why does the state grant that authority? They grant it because we have no state income tax. And so everything is loaded to the property tax. So the state of Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the nation. And the state of Texas created the authority to grant ag exemptions working with the counties because there's an understanding that it's not fair to tax an entity with a land intensive business like raging, where they should receive tax relief, on the same basis that you tax a small storefront business that may have only 1,500 square feet. With an ag exemption, you're looking at a 90% exemption for the life of the land. We're only asking for 10 years. We're not asking for a tax relief over the 30-year life of the project. We're only asking for the first 10 years. We're not asking for 90%. We've gone from 50 down to 35%. And so I wanted to address that. And then the other thing that I wanted to share is that, you know, we've made a pledge to you that Red River Clean Energy will be a good business neighbor. That's why on their own, they have pledged to donate a pumper, a fire truck, to the city of Mullen, the volunteer fire department. I've met with your fire chief and already shared this with him. And what that will do is it will lower the ISO rating. It will create savings for anybody who lives out in the Mullen area for your insurance of hundreds of dollars a year. So there are direct benefits that are going on. That is not something that Red River needed to do. Now let me address some of the.
Okay, wrap it up, Bill. Okay, if you can, please, sir. Thanks.
Well, okay, I'm just, let's see. So, one person asked, Sean asked, about, what the, how do we know that, you're gonna hold to it? I'm sorry, I don't have my readers on, and the lens fell out of my reader. And here's what I wanted to tell you, in terms of the rollback, that is built into law. That is the law, that is the tax law, that is something that has to be done. So, and the whole point of a pilot is that we, go into a contractual relationship with the county where the payments are guaranteed. There's no going before and having the value, challenging the valuation of the land. There's none of those things. It is contractually guaranteed. In terms of the hailstorm in Brazoria County, I can't speak for that, but I can tell you this project is going to be insured. And if a panel goes out because of a hailstorm, those panels will be replaced because the owner doesn't make a dime if those panels go out of service. And there will be a supply for individual panels that go out, but if there is a major issue, that insurance contract will be pulled immediately and those panels will be replaced. There's been a statement about if you grant an abatement, you can't stop it. Yes, you can, because this group here is sovereign. Just because they grant an abatement to us doesn't mean they have to grant an abatement to someone else. Dwayne mentioned, was either Dwayne or Wayne, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, that it doesn't benefit us. Well, it benefits you with the electricity that is needed, and it is desperately needed right now. It benefits you with tax revenues. It benefits Mullen ISD with $19 million that they need. It will remediate the land because we are removing the unexploded ordnance from Camp Bowie. In terms of jobs, I understand your viewpoint there, but I always tell people that's to be celebrated. Because if you bring in, let's say, a distribution center with several hundred, trucks or bays, or you need several hundred people moving in, now all of a sudden you've got more tax revenues, yes, but now you have more tax burdens because now you need more fire, more police, more trash pickup. You need to put in neighborhoods, and once a neighborhood goes in, that land is lost forever.
Bill, I got to stop you, but if we go through every point, we're gonna be here for hours. So
Okay.
Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up.
I think I was,
If we have anything else, we'll contact you, okay?
okay, that's fine.
Okay,
Thank you for your.
okay. Mr. Jeff Allen is here, our attorney. Mr. Jeff Allen, good morning. How are you today? You've got some new figures, and for the public that's listening in, so what has been proposed originally from Red River Blue Heron Solar Project was a 50% abatement. They've come back, you've been in contact with their group, and now they've come back with the 35% tax abatement. And verify these figures, estimated revenue with no abatement is roughly $10.3 million for the county.
During the abatement period.
Yes, during that abatement, 10-year abatement period. With the full abatement, the income or tax revenues would be 6.7 million, so roughly $3.6,335,000 left out.
Yes,
On that
and
figure.
based on the math that I provided, as we discussed at the earlier workshops, the way this is presented is essentially 100% tax abatement, meaning that 100% of the taxes are abated, so you go down to zero. And in lieu of taxes, you pay a fixed amount. That's one of the ways that the county, it's the best way we found that the county can control the income and use it for budgeting and know what the long-term income is. At the 35% abatement, what the math that we have is that would be a pilot payment, an annual pilot payment, which is the payment more in taxes of $615,000 at 35%. Within the abatement agreement, what we have is requirements pursuant to our guidelines and criteria. We have a requirement of 2 jobs. That was the guidelines and criteria that was adopted by the court. In the abatement agreement, the way that we generally handle that is that there will be a jobs penalty if 2 jobs aren't created. Part of that is to help on the end of the project, any sort of project in other counties, whether that's a manufacturing facility or anything, because the amount of employees can vary over time, and that's why we use a job penalty. In the agreement that we presented, I had that, I think at $7,500 or $8,500 per lost job if they didn't reach that amount, so we would increase the pilot a little bit. Also in the pilot agreement, we have a requirement that the business stay in the county for 12 years, which is a little beyond the abatement period. Generally, these projects would. The reason I don't put it much longer than that is just a matter of enforcement. If we get more than a couple of years outside of the actual abatement agreement, we start to run into statute of limitations to be able to go and recapture that. So we usually I put it at 12 because we know we're within that window that if they picked up stakes and left at year 11, we would still have that option. There's always, as I'm sure you would recognize, weaknesses in that we are dealing with a specially created entity that will own the project. So all of its revenue, all of its assets, everything are within that entity, and that's the entity that you would be signing an abatement agreement with, and that's the entity that you would be looking to. So if that entity went away, you're kind of jousting the windmills at that point if you're chasing after it. But generally, these projects do survive. Based on my experience in dealing with renewable projects, even when they run into financial hardships, the amount of investment that's there, they continue operating. I think I've talked to Judge Johnson about this in the past. The example that I can show where I'm from, Nolan County, we had early wind projects from pre-Great Recession times. Some of them were made by Babcock and Brown, some were made by Enron. When those companies went under, those projects went into bankruptcy, were picked up, and they continue to operate today. They're still there 20 years later. But recognizing the weakness that these are special purpose entities, and that's what owns them. I think if there's anything else. As far as within the agreement also, one of the points that we put in this agreement for your consideration was special requirements for fire training, where they have to come in and train volunteer fire departments in there and dealing with fires and what they should do in the event that there is a fire at the site. And that's something that we always put to deal with equipment that volunteer fire departments are probably more commonly trained in dealing with wildfires and things like that. So industrial type equipment, we want them to have special training to deal with them. One of the questions that y'all brought forward was the decommissioning security. Generally, that is a requirement. That is a requirement through the legislature has made in the utilities code, but it's an agreement between the landowner and the project. And it's the state law requires it to be posted at the 20-year. In our abatement form, we're requesting that the company post that at the 10th year, consistent with what you would have seen with the wind turbine. That's based on just what we've seen is life of the project. The idea of the useful life of these projects is longer than that, but given the improvement of technology over time and the viability and everything like that, most are comfortable with it at year 10. So we're asking it to be posted. That may be something they already have with the landowner, but we're not privy to the actual agreements. Are there any questions other than those on the abatements and the actual agreement itself? And we'll welcome present it. All these things are obviously up to your vote. That's why y'all are here.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Allen?
Yeah, I've got a question on if you gave no abatement the figures that you sent to us and not on 35%, on 20%.
On 20% what the number would be.
Yes,
A 20% abatement, the pilot would be approximately $757,000 a year. It's approximately 140-ish more per year to the county on a 20% abatement.
is there any way to make a contract if there is no abatement with this company, that these figures are set in stone and they do not go arguing with the tax?
You know, if there's not an abatement, that's what we use the abatement for. To the question of what the benefit is with it, it gives certainty. That's where it is, because if we don't have an abatement, they're free to go to the appraisal district every year, and they will, because I mean, that's in their best interest, the same as you would with your house or anything else, to discuss valuation, and the valuation is based on the tax rate that y'all adopt every year. Or your income is based on the tax rate, the evaluation is just whatever the appraisal district comes up with, and that's generally through whoever they hire, so.
So do you think these numbers will be correct?
I believe they will be correct over the term. That's what we've seen. There's some fluctuation. The industry right now is probably mature to the point where we've seen a pretty consistent valuation over time. And there's enough projects in the state that generally the same entities are evaluating. And it's not necessarily local people appraising them. It's firms like Pritchard Navitt, and they're going to place them across the state. So there's a fairly consistent use of that. You know, in the past, some appraisal districts have had lawsuits on projects just based off all of the methods that they've done, but most of those have been settled and they're consistent. So what you would see in the value that the company presented, I would think those are going to be pretty consistent. They, of course, are going to be free to challenge that every year. But absent the abatement, you know, that's an appraisal district. You know, that's outside of y'all's purview. Your deal at that point would be adopting the tax rate and applying it to it and say, you know, good luck to you.
But to me, that's the difference in the $2 million over the 10-year period. Is the fact that they can go there and argue their appraisal.
They very well could. It would not be, even if they appraise it, it's not gonna get lower than the abatement. If there's no abatement, they're gonna pay more taxes than if there was abatement regardless of what's, essentially. If that answers the question more directly. The abatement is always gonna lower their taxes. They're in the later years, the income may be more when it's depreciated down, but you'll get substantially more over the life of it, primarily because of those early years, where you'll be collecting more. Part of what the pilot does also is spread your income out over the 10 years. Look at the pilot, like in year one of the pilot, it's not, they're not paying 65% of their taxes in the first year on the pilot, because the pilot is based off of the income over the entire 10 years. So that first year, that if they're paying $615,000, they're probably getting closer to 50-55% abatement, but they're in the later years, and you're like 7, 8, 9, and 10. They're paying more than they would have been paying otherwise. When they got it depreciated down 10%, their actual tax rate, they may have been paying $250,000, but they have a pilot that they have to pay. I think some of that is the advantage for the company in that they have a large capital outlay on the front end of the project, so getting the more money, more wiggle room on the front end is a benefit to them, and later on they're in a better financial position. But for the entire life of the project, without the abatement, they're gonna obviously.
Mr. Malone, I know you brought something to my attention this morning about the guidelines and criteria. Well, we've got Mr. Allen here. Why don't you
Sure.
bring up what you brought to me this morning?
Well, as I understand it, the state law prohibits the court from adopting or from entering into a tax abatement agreement unless it finds that the whatever business, or like in this case, Blue Heron, complies with the guidelines and criteria. So, and then that's actually the same thing that the guidelines and criteria point out in several places. The Commissioner's Court must find that the terms of the agreement satisfy these guidelines and criteria. So going down
This is on in section 1, subsection B. It says, in order for any improvement to be eligible for designation, either of a reinvestment on consideration of tax abatement, the planned improvement, in this case, Blue Heron must, and then there's a list of requirements before the court has the legal ability to approve it. The first one, says that there must be reasonably expected to have an increase in positive net economic benefit to Mills County, this is to the county, of at least $10 million over the life of the abatement. So we're looking at a 10-year period, and there, according to the guidelines and criteria, as I read it, there must be a net benefit averaging $1 million a year. As I understand the proposal from Blue Heron, they do not meet that threshold. And I will tell you, later in the guidelines and criteria, there is another section that discusses a $10 million threshold, but that relates to the property value. It's a different threshold for a different purpose. Now, to continue on in this particular provision, it says computed to include, but not limited to, new sustaining payroll, which, as I understand it, is about $250,000, and or capital improvement within the county. Now, obviously, the capital improvement is $267 million. So that would put it wildly over, but the goal here is to determine the positive net economic benefit. And so the capital investment does not really benefit the county. It's not like you're building a resort or something where people come from miles around. They don't normally have observation decks to look at solar farms. So that in this case, as I read the provision, the capital improvement money would not be included. And if that's true, then Blue Heron would not meet the $10 million threshold over the life of the project, over the 10-year tax abatement time. Then number two, there are two places in the guidelines and criteria where they discuss the number of permanent full-time employees required to be to meet the threshold. Later in the guidelines and criteria, there is a requirement of 3 permanent full-time employees. That particular place has a built-in provision that allows the court to waive that 3-person requirement, which is very low bar. I mean, 3 people, that's not a very high bar at all. In section 1D2, the threshold is 2 permanent full-time employees, and which is again even lower bar to meet, but still, as I read the application from Blue Heron, they do not even meet that bar. They have 1 permanent full-time employee, and so if state statute prohibits the court from approving the agreement unless it meets the guidelines and criteria, in at least these 2 different places, the guidelines and criteria are not met. And I heard Jeff a minute ago talk about there being a penalty in the agreement that they drafted. I didn't see that agreement. this is what I heard. But I question whether that would be acceptable, because once again, the law and the guidelines require compliance with all the provisions of the guidelines and criteria. Now, one last comment, these can be amended by the court. So if the court wanted to drop that threshold down to one permanent full-time employee, it can do that, but it must do so with a 4-to-1 vote. Because it's required to have 75% majority vote in order to amend the guidelines and criteria during the applicable period.
Okay, Mr. Allen, comments?
Yeah, Ms. Mullen was correct, and that's why we adopted guidelines and criteria to essentially bumpers in the lane, you know where you're going. Based on the job creation, you're authorized to amend the guidelines and criteria, but it takes a higher vote to do it. While we have the job creation requirement in here, we put the penalties essentially a form of kind of a liquidated damages, because it would be real technical with it, I guess it's default of the agreement, but as mentioned before, it's to allow there to not have to trigger an entire rollback, recapture and everything like that, if the job requirement lower, but you would be free to vote to amend the guidelines prior to that. As far as the actual investment in the, or the benefit to the county, that's where we lean on y'all, that's part of the determination you make. Part of the things that we do here, in addition to the pilot, is we do not abate the INS taxes to the extent that if you did take out a bond to fix roads or do anything else in the county, this would be taxed at full. There will also be benefits to the low and ISD. Units that will go to that contribution to any purchases. We have a local goods and services requirement where they have to look to buy things from here, whether that's aggregate or water or anything else that they need. Those are all brought into that calculus that you would be doing. And that's part of why, you know, here, you make that determination, it's when we get elected.
So has that been put into the agreement as of right now, or no, we're just talking about the abatement? Well, like what they're gonna do, the bond, the infrastructure,
That
the
is
road,
that I, like the bonds in there.
okay, but we have not seen that.
I think it's in the judge, but yeah, it's the form that y'all need to do with them. Essentially, it's the one that we looked at. It is all in there right now.
Okay, so I don't know how I can vote on without seeing the full thing.
Which we can distribute that, you can.
You see what I'm saying?
Table it, or you can make a decision to do whatever you want.
'Cause All we were presented with was the percentage.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, other questions, commissioners? We're on number 3. I'll read what number 3 is. For the record, considering possible action on Blue Heron Solar Project Tax Abatement Agreement pursuant to Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code between Mills County and Blue Heron Solar LLC, or its subsidiary, collectively known as Blue Heron. In compliance with Section 312.207C of the Texas Tax Code, in pertinent part, the proposed tax abatement agreement under considerations consist of the following. 1, Blue Heron Solar LLC owners of the interest in lands eligible for abatement agreements within the reinvestment zone submitted applications for tax abatement agreements. Number 2, the abatement agreements proposed within the Blue Heron Solar Mills County reinvestment zone designated by the Commissioners Court of Mills County, Texas on November 24th, 2025, located in western Mills County. A map of the existing reinvestment zone is available for inspections in the office of the county judge. The proposed improvements related to the construction of solar energy facility, including solar panels, tracking systems, battery energy storage systems, as such term is used in the connection language, inverters, transformers, foundations, containers, cabling, collection lines, collection stations, transmission lines, substations, interconnection facilities, operation and maintenance facilities, and infrastructure materials and equipment customary necessary for the operation of a solar power electric generation. 4, the estimated cost and improvement shall be in excess of $267 million. So that is what we're discussing today, gentlemen. And what is on the table is a 35% abatement requested from Blue Heron. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Well, I would like to see the whole contract, Judge, because I would like to know what we're gonna do to the infrastructure that has been stated in this. Like the road use agreement and all that, because we haven't discussed any of that as the court here. I mean, we can go into closed session if you would like to do that or
Well,
something
so
like
when you go
that.
Closed section, I mean, what's on the table is 35%. Now, we can still, you vote yea or nay, and then discuss these other things, correct, Mr.
Yeah, I
Allen?
think that was the goal of.
Oh, okay.
Today, I mean, that's what we're here for.
If the court does not want to grant a 35% abatement, we don't want to use the time trying.
Yeah, wasting our time.
I have that, I can get. it to
Okay.
you, We can go, I think that was the goal as far as efficiency goes, is so that we don't spend a lot of time and effort making the agreement and then voting it down. But if the court desires a 35% abatement, then we can make it, the motion to be subject to.
Subject to the rest of the contract.
Agreement, so that you can look at it, but that way you can know whether you're gonna do it or not. If the court does not want to grant the 35% abatement, we have to mess with that.
Well, I was just going through the agenda and that number 3 states all that stuff that we're gonna be voting on, and I haven't seen
You
that.
can make that motion subject to that. We've done that in the past, to negotiating, spending a lot of time and money negotiating the full agreement. And then voting it down. This way you can determine if that's the amount. If you don't want to do it, then it's just done. If not, then we can sit down and go through it bit by bit, because the road use agreement will be specific to the precinct
And-
that it's in.
The next question, Judge, is what the county attorney has brought up with is the $10 million threshold. Is that, it says the 10 million, I don't remember what you said, Bill, but is it 10 million for the life of the abated contract or 10 million of the life of the contract?
The decision would be for the 10-year abatement period. And that, and it has to have a, net economic benefit to the county of 10 million, over the life of the abatement. So you have.
Over the life of the abatement.
So millions a year on 10 years.
And a lot of that is the determination. Most counties will view that as the investment in the county. Some will use that. And that's, I would defer to your county attorney and how you would interpret that. Most view it as that initial investment plus your.
Plus the rollback, plus the roll and all that.
The money going to the school districts, the investment, the purchases locally, those sorts of things. But that's one of the determinations that you would be making in doing it, is that you believe that there's going to be that investment. Obviously, you can't guarantee it because you don't know what the future looks like, but it's one of the determinations we rely on the commissioner's court to make it, ensuring that when you believe this project reaches that purpose.
So let me clarify just one thing. You're saying you include the school district's money in that or no?
That investment in the county.
Investment to the county, okay.
It's an investment within, the idea of doing, entering the tax payment, is you're inviting money into the county. The concept is economic development in the county. You believe, like, if I give this tax abatement, there will be a large investment in the county and it will create theoretically jobs, investment, tax revenue. And that would be part where the determination that you're making is that meet the thresholds of your guideline and criteria. When we did the guidelines and criteria, that was part of the idea. One of the deals of putting the jobs department is like, we want to give the tax payment if there's not going to be any jobs. You put in that requirement of 2 in the sense of at the time we adopted the guidelines and criteria, the commissioner's court would like to use tax payments to create jobs, not necessarily just investment. Those are one of the ideas that you're contemplating on your side.
Mr. Pentak, I want to say something. Here, go ahead, Bill.
I'll agree, Your Honor.
Yeah, please.
I appreciate that. I just want to say, with respect, there's no way that this project, I can't say not meeting the capital investment requirement in the first 10 years, because this project is going to be built in approximately 15 months. And so it's a $267 million project. And my best guess, the other thing that hasn't been included in that is the whatever expense that Red River is going through to pull the unexploded ordnance out of the ground. That's an improvement. So I really think that this will meet that criteria.
Okay.
On that basis.
Okay, anything else, commissioners, questions for any of these people? So what's on the table is a 35% proposal from Red River Blue Heron. Mr. Allen, if you discussed with their attorneys and everything, that is what they've come down from 50% to 35%.
That is my understanding is what was acceptable.
So that is what is on the table. What I gave figures earlier, the estimated taxes over a 10-year period with no abatements, roughly 10.4 million for Mills County. With the 35% abatement, which would be a pilot program, the figure would be $6,750,000, roughly $3.6 million difference. So
Which does not include the INS.
Does not include INS. So, commissioners, anybody want to make a motion for a 35% tax abatement for Blue Heron Solar Project?
So do we want to discuss the 20%? Because I think that's what Craig
Well,
and
no,
Robert.
They got 35%.
We presented that, my understanding was that they don't authorize at 30.
So that's as low as they'll go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I did not hear that.
I said-
We was asking about 20% abatement.
That was another consideration, and I was just asking the court if we wanted to discuss that, and
We thought both might be voted on, but
Well, we've been presented 35%, and I will make a comment, we've been working on this since May. Back and forth figures. I'm ready to take a vote, yay or nay, and get this thing over with. Give you all the facts, well, I don't know anybody else feels. So,
well, I was just, only reason I was bringing that up is because the two commissioners on that end had requested the 20% discussion, and so I was at the last
well,
meeting,
again, the last
so.
deal they sent to them, and their attorney told our attorney that 35%, your best deal is what I was told by Mr. Allen.
well, we were also told it was a negotiation. And my understanding is that, Mr. Allen sent two sets of numbers to, Red River, 35% and 20%.
Okay,
That's correct, that's what we sent 35% was 615, and the 20% was 757,000. The last discussion that I had was that the only authority from Red River was on the 35%. Theoretically, and we've done it in the past, we voted to approve in other counties a percentage that they didn't agree to. Then it's up to them whether they want to sign it or not. It's ultimately your discretion. Unfortunately, you could go like, look, we'll give you 10%. But
Okay. Well, the only reason I was asking that, Judge, is that the paper that you sent us has 20 and 30.
I know.
So that's why.
that's the last communications we've had with Mr. Allen back to them. Yeah.
Got it. That's why you have to post you with no vote numbers.
They also have 50% original.
Yeah.
Well, Commissioner, any of y'all will make a motion for a certain amount of abatement to be voted on? Or is there any more discussion we need to talk about? I'll make a motion, we do no tax abatement for Blue Heron. You say, interrupted, sorry.
No, you're swapping. You said we were voting on 35%.
Well, 35% motion, I asked if there was anybody, no one made a second.
No one made a
You
motion.
made a
Okay, I'll make a motion of a, well, I don't want to do a motion, I asked if anybody wanted to do a 35% abatement of the motion.
You've already made a motion of no abatement.
Yeah, I just didn't say that I made a motion to do zero abatement. Do I hear us? Do we drop that?
I really am kind of lost. I think looking at figures that we got over the weekend, there's a $2 million difference between the 20% and the no abatement. I've asked Mr. Allen, he seems to think that they'll hold with their percentages. In the case of the wind turbines, that was not the deal. So I question whether the solar is gonna hold with the 8%. Because there was years, some of the wind was as high as 20%.
Yeah.
Well, that can change these numbers.
There's no big fund to discuss. It would be up to them to challenge it. They it's a business. Every year they're gonna challenge it. I think there's a track record on it we're held to it. On the wind turbines, there were several lawsuits over the last 10, 15 years that got settled, and that's where they've gone. But if there's no abatement, then it's just you apply your tax rate to it. I can't.
And whatever happens, depreciation rate
It's
happens.
up to it's the appraisal district. Back and forth through the appraisal process.
Well, the last thing that you want is a bunch of lawsuits between the county because you do not get them settled.
Yeah, and I'm confident that we have a long enough track record. I can't mind the future on it. I haven't seen, I haven't seen lawsuits on solar valuation. Some of it was based on income approach and various income references where those came from. But if there is no abatement, it's an appraisal district question. They come in and say that's appraised too high, and they agree on it, disagree on it, and y'all collect the money from the appraisal district based on your tax rate.
And if
Judge, I have
it
a
ends
question.
up in litigation, you don't collect taxes then.
It would at some point, it would come through, there'll be a level of taxes that are paid, but there would be a dispute as to the amount. I don't. That's when I don't want to use, I know I'm getting around the question here, but. I don't know what would happen here in 10 years, so I can't tell you that this is what they're gonna do and this is what they're not gonna do, because. It could be different 5 years from now, the world would be a different place, they do something different. That's where it comes from. My anticipation would be that it stays because they have a track record. That's what they've agreed to. This is the way that they are appraised in other counties. They've been established. Solar projects since we've been appraised by appraisal districts for about a decade now in Texas. So there's some precedent to it. But every year they're gonna try and lower their taxes. The same as we do with the house or any business, they're gonna try and lower their taxes. And they're gonna go to the appraisal district and try to do that. And every year the appraisal district is going to appraise the project based on depreciation. And that could change. There's no law that would require them to. There is some fixed amount through the legislature. But, you know, it changes. The valuation could change over the course of the time.
Mr. Allen, I have a follow-up question. So if we do, if it was to give a no abatement, in your experience, how does the county control their infrastructure and the roads and the use and that side of it, or?
It's no abatement, could still go and talk to them about a road use agreement. You know, without the abatement, there's not quite the leverage on it, but if they're gonna be using county roads, they usually would sometimes need to be improved or expanded, depending on where they're coming from. where
Oh,
they're-
they'll definitely, yeah.
Because at that point, you know, if they need a wider road or they need a road that requires more equipment, they would still have to come to you on that. There's nothing stopping you from entering a type of road use agreement. It's just a lot of times the abatement is kind of the carrot to the road, to the stick of the road use agreement.
But not a guarantee.
No, not a guarantee. They could use them. They're kind of roads that are.
Okay, any other discussion, questions, comments? So I got a motion for no tax abatement for Blue Heron Red River. Did I hear a second? Well, I never made a motion for 35%. I said, does anybody want to make a motion for 35? I never heard anything. Okay, so now I'm asking for a no abatement, 0% no abatement for Blue Heron Red River Solar Energy is my motion. Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Who seconded?
Commissioner Head, any other discussion? All those in favor of having no abatement for Blue Heron Solar Farm Red River, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? 3 in favor, 2 against. No tax abatement. Mr. Allen, thank you for coming. And we'll talk to you more. Bill Pentak, thank you for coming, all your comments and everything. I'm gonna recommend adjournment number 4. I'm in favor of adjourning. Second by Commissioner Head. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.